Strategy Mob Podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Strategy Mob. Today, I have two very special guests. I have Stefano Serpa and Kevin Zimic. Gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to jam with me today. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Pleasure.
Hey guys, for everybody out there that's watching and listening and maybe don't know your guys' background or how you kind of got started in the industry, I thought it'd be cool to kind of kick off this podcast with a couple origin stories. So, Stefano, I'll start with you. How did you get started in the automotive industry?
Oh, well, my father's been in automotive his entire life. So he was a mechanic at the age of 9 and, started right from the bottom and worked his way all the way up. He got his first dealership in 86. I was born in 89, and things just kind of progressed from there. And the next thing you know, right out of university, I was on the front line there in sales. But prior to that, I was I did everything. So I did detailing, parts advisor, service advisor, everything. I did from bottom all the way to the top, and eventually made my way up to vice president of the company. And my father is the dealer principal, of course. So he paved the way and came right behind him.
So you were literally born into the business.
Literally born into the business.
I love listening to everybody's story of how they got into the business. I have yet to find someone who grew up and said, you know what, at the age of 9, they were like, I'm going to get into the automotive industry. It seems like we all either was born into it or fell into it. For me, I was suckered into it. Someone said, hey, Jay, you like selling shit? I said, yeah, I like selling stuff. They're like, you want to sell cars? I'm like, sure. Summer job. I'm like, yeah, sounds good. Little did I know that, the guy received a $500 referral bonus as long as I stayed for 90 days. Hey, Kevin, for yourself, how did you get started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry?
Jeez. Most of the stuff that I get involved in these days usually happens when I step out of a meeting room to go to the washroom. I come back and I'm ordained. But I don't know. I'd have to ask my parents. I've asked them a million times. I've always been obsessed with cars. I've raced cars and things in the past. And genetic malfunction, possibly.
Malfunction. That's like the best way to describe most of us in the industry.
But I was always into cars. I bought one as soon as I could. Transitioned to the dirt bikes, and all 4 years, summers in university. I'm a native Niagaran. And growing up in Niagara, Ontario, Canada, General Motors is a large influence in St. Catharines, Welland area. And worked all 4 summers for General Motors in production and a student supervisor in production. And when I graduated with a business degree, as I really wanted to work at GM corporately, who were going through a bit of a downsizing back then. Oh, God, 35 years and at least 40 pounds ago. I believe was when that was.
I love that you know the weight too.
Well, I sold cars while I waited and continued to try and get into an automotive corporate office. I was successful in 1990. Started with Ford Motor Company, the old glass house on the Canadian Road in Oakville. Worked 16 years from there. Gave them the old George Costanza, "It's not you, it's me," and it's not true. Not true. It just wasn't the right place for me anyway. So I ended up going, I left a very good position there with nowhere else to go. I just knew I wasn't going corporate anymore. And I went into the event marketing business based on a few NHL alumni properties. And when I sold that, I went into partnership with a Nissan dealer, Drew Tilson, here at Rich Hill Ford in beautiful, sunny, somewhat warm Cambridge.
Somewhat warm is right.
He has 2 other dealerships. He owns Barry Nissan and also owns half of Georgian BMW Mini up in Barry.
You know what? It sounds like for you, you had gasoline in your blood. I think that's what it was. It was there. You just kind of got into it, right? Somewhat warm is right, though. Right now, the weather's a little crazy.
I tell
Oh, yeah.
people I have a car problem. There's no 12-step program, so you just right? Stefano, you know that, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Stefano, you have a bit of a car problem?
I have a few car problems, and now with Serpa Motorsports on board, I have now a motorsports problem. So I got a whole mess of problems that come with engines.
I know,
So,
guys.
fun though.
Would you ever have thought that we would be sitting down in this type of situation? I mean, like, I think as an industry, we all kind of plan, for the worst and expect the best. And I don't think anybody could have ever had a contingency plan for something like this. I mean, really, I went through the recession. That was a game of economics. This is all about social. I mean, it's such a social impact on our industry and on our customer. So actually, this would be a great place for us to kind of kick it off. Is what is the current norm for you guys? And Stefano, I'll start with you. What is your current norm right now? What does that look like?
So our current norm, well, obviously with the government announcing that it's appointment only for showrooms. The norm is everything online. We here at Serpa have been doing online business for a long time. So it's kind of natural for us. But the whole thing about the excitement around the vehicle or the product is there to the enthusiasts who know what they're buying. To the ones who still need that test drive, that TLC, it's a little bit tougher for them. But we're here to assist in any way possible. So we're full video, full text, email, phone, everything possible to make them feel comfortable. And of course, now that we can test drive and all that with the steering wheel wraps and the sanitization, the seat covers, everything, we're doing it all. And this is the new norm. At home delivery, at business delivery to those who are essential. This is the norm, and we're here to be a part of it 100%. It's kind of interesting to see how the staff adapt to it. I would say is the biggest change for the staff, because we're all now moving a little more in harmony than we usually would. We've become somewhat of a logistics company at this point too, right? So it's fun. We're going with it. So. Yeah.
Well, I think that we all have to. That is going with it is kind of the theme I find with everybody right now. It's just like we just kind of have to go with the flow and just kind of write it out. And I love the fact that you said like we're communicating in every single way. I mean, you literally listed everything: text message, video, Zoom meeting, phone calls, smoke signals, social media, instant messenger. But I think that's kind of going to be the overall theme for us as an industry moving forward. Is it's almost by any means necessary. Like we'll communicate, we'll service your vehicle, we'll sell you a vehicle, however, I guess you kind of require it. So as an industry, we're having to become flexible, which is not always been we've been known for. We're not really known for being a flexible industry, where it's literally you come in, here's your 12 stages and that's it. No other way around it. But I know we're going to get more into that. But before we do that, Kevin, for yourself, what does that current norm look like for you?
Well, it's very similar to what Stefano said with respect to how we're communicating with customers. As always, we've offered a lot that you can do remotely. We've tried, made various efforts. I don't think a significant or fulsome enough effort, both at my business or as an industry, have we done so. Trying to move remotely, remote information down the sales funnel. So do more from home, or do more on your terms, on your time, and through your method of media. So this has kind of forced us to do it. It's a welcome change for me. It's been a bit of a shock to the organization, but that's good, because change is good. And we all talk. All we've done is read stuff to try and get us out of bed in the morning about how the world starts at the edges of our comfort zone. So we've spent a lot of time there. My staff has spent a lot of time there. In terms of numbers, I've got 70% of my fixed operation back now. I didn't go down below 50% of my fixed operation, which is great. We do a lot of OPP, we do a lot of FedEx, we do a lot of delivery trucks. Being a Ford dealership with trucks, we do a lot more of that in this area. And I'm now just in the front end of the business. I've got my commercial manager in. I have my digital manager in every day. I've got my GSM in, and one salesperson who started 2 weeks ago, and another one who's going to start. Well, you won't see this broadcast by the time he starts, but he doesn't know it yet, but he's starting Tuesday.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody can argue the fact that just so much has changed in such a fast time. And that's the crazy thing. We talk about the amount of time. I mean, in February, I was at NADA, and that's crazy.
Yep.
It feels like it was a year ago. And it was literally like, I remember people talking about it at NADA. And then all of a sudden I got home and it was like the first week of March and it was bam. I mean, the recession for me happened over a 6 to 9 month period. I mean, this was a 2-week period where everything just kind of went.
Yeah. Yeah. The auto show as well, right? We were just
exactly
at the Canadian International Auto Show. My father and I were talking about that yesterday. And we're like, was that just in February?
It was literally because the day after I went to NADA. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is absolutely crazy. But what I think is the craziest part is the fundamental impact it has on the customer. Like I think the biggest thing that has changed is the customer. The customer now over the past month or a couple months now, getting close to it, is the way that the customers have engaged with retail at any level. Restaurants, Canadian Tire, grocery stores, it is all changing. And I've gotten to the point now where I'm so accustomed to it. Like I don't know if I will ever step into a grocery store again.
Yeah.
I got 3 kids under the age of 10. I don't know what the hell I was going into a grocery store in the first place. It's like literally it was like a black ops mission trying to go to a grocery store with 3 kids under the age of okay guys, here's the operational plan. Okay, you're not going to do this, you're not going to do this. We're going to go in slow, we're going to go in stealthy, we're going to get shit done and we're going to be out. But it's like now I'm just like, I go on, I order, I pull up, the process is so clean, it's so frictionless, it's so smooth, and I hate to say it's more productive. I'm not spending hours walking up and down an aisle. And I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on this, but I feel that moving forward, this is what the customer has now gotten used to. And I feel like some level of that, they're going to expect to continue to do it that way. Stefano, I'll start with you, kind of get your thoughts on that. And Kevin, I'll ask you the same question. How do you think this has impacted the customer?
Yeah, for sure. Well, just your example of the grocery store is a perfect one because like if you're at home and you send your list and you pull up and you call, you say I'm outside in a black Jeep and your trunk opens and there's your groceries. So, a lot of it's going to be that way. And for cars, the clients are getting used to the delivery, right? So we have a couple enclosed trailers and we don't drive your car, no mileage, no stone chips, no using your gas, nothing like that. So we call the customer, we say, hey, Mrs. Smith, we are outside. You can come on out and our driver is there waiting for you. And the car comes out of this beautiful trailer and parked into your garage and, sanitized and wrapped up clean and all that. How do you get better than that? Right? So how do you get better than that? Right? So it really doesn't, right? So the customers are certainly going to get used to things like that. But again, you're still going to have those customers that enjoy picking up the vehicle, driving it home. We have had that in this week so far. But they're certainly getting used to a little more convenience. And at the dealer level, it takes a little more on our side. But you know what? We're here to be a part of a customer's experience. A car purchase is the second biggest purchase customers make, and we're here to make it as special as we can, no matter what the circumstances. But I think they're loving it right now with certain things. My summation.
No, I agree with you. I mean, Kevin, I'd love to get your thoughts on how you think the customer is going to change the way that we do business as an industry.
I think we're. To use the bleeding obvious, we're in a period of transition right now. What I mean by that period of transition, I don't have a good feel for it. We'll have, we've had, it is, for the purposes of this, Eastern time, we've been open for 8 hours now. And we've sold 3 vehicles today, been fortunate enough to have people come in. 2 of them were ups, traditional ups. And one of them sent in an e-lead, decided to come in and take a look around. The reason why they came to see it was because I needed to get out of the house. I'm bored because I've been cooped up for a while. So once that lifts and they don't feel the need to get out of the house, I think that's when the convenience of I don't feel the need to get out. I can just stay here in my fuzzy slippers and my underwear and make the order and use the conveniences that COVID-19 has forced dealers to finally get, into the year 2000. I don't think we're in the year 2020 yet, but this is a bit of a kick in the ass that we needed. I willingly accepted the kick in the ass, and I think it's good for us. It's going to be good for the industry, and I think we need to continue to perpetuate it. So when we get through this transition period of people not looking to get out as an excuse to get out, I think it'll be a lot better, and I think we'll do a lot more remotely. We've done more e-transfers this week than we did for the prior 9 years. I'm not paying Visa. I'm not paying MasterCard. It's a thing of beauty. It's a quick transaction. And we're exchanging greater pleasantries from afar. From once you see somebody, the heavy work's out of the way. It's just a couple of pleasantries about how they're enjoying the weather and otherwise. And the majority of the heavy lifting in the transaction occurs remotely and the customer dictates that time and cadence, which I think is important to them. It's important to me as a consumer. And I certainly feel more comfortable as a business owner now starting to transact business the way I expect it to be transacted in other businesses. I've gotten used to it.
Very good point. Yeah.
It's great.
Speaking of that, kind of that remote aspect, I have talking to a lot of dealers right now, and Kevin, I'm sure you have, and Stefano, I'm sure you have too. This is a big industry, but we're all really close with each other. So it just seems like everyone's very, very tight, family when it comes to our industry. And I have a lot of friends out there that are doing a lot with a little, and it's beginning to open up their eyes. And, I hate to say it from an operations perspective, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on this, is, going into our new norm, that doing a lot with a little mentality, do you think it will continue? And how does that change the way we structure our operations? Stefano, I'll start with you, and Kevin, then I'll ask you the same question.
Yeah, no, for sure. With layoffs and much like Kevin, we tried to keep it above the 50% mark. So, you do lean on staff a little bit more, right? So you do kind of begin to learn that, hey, I can actually do that, or hey, he can actually do that for me. But again, we have employees in place for a reason. They are the reason that we're dealers are successful and businesses are successful. But I do think that each of us are learning that we are capable of more. And we don't look at it as, hey, we're not going to bring that guy back. We can run with just this guy. No, let's bring them all back and let's grow. Right. And then let's grow and let's keep up that momentum. Let's not try and operate the way we were with less staff. Let's bring everybody back and operate at a greater capacity. So that's the way I look at it. And that's the way I'm looking forward to it. And much like Kevin, we have we have staff starting again this week. It's going to be good. It's going to be good to see how the staff that have been laid off come back and gel with the new processes and all that. Right. And it's funny because the staff are calling me like, so what's going on? How many deals do we do today? And how many deliveries do we have this week and things like that. And so we tell them, and I love the enthusiasm coming from them. Because they're so eager to get back to work, and as an employer, that's the biggest compliment you could ever ask for, right? So we're super excited to use this and grow as much as we can.
I think that's
the new norm.
That's an amazing way to look at it. I mean, you've been able to identify that you are being able to do more with less. But that just means when you are back at full capacity, you're just going to be able to handle and do that much more. And I love that you mentioned process, because I'm a true believer that the new norm, we're going to have to process our way to profitability.
Correct.
Like so many new processes are going to have to be in place. We're going to have to document the crap out of them. We're going to have to break them. We're going to have to redo them. And it's going to just this constant push of process, which I love when that happens because I think it makes our industry better and makes the customer experience better. Kevin, your thoughts on, just kind of the people generally talking about doing more with less employees, and do you see that affecting your operations?
Oh, got lots of thoughts on that one, buddy. How much time you got?
All the time you need, Kevin. All the time you need.
I wish I had all the time that it's going to require. But I think it is going to change a lot, and it is not change for change's sake. But I think a lot of the things that a lot of vendors have called us up, and by the way, continue to call us up during these very busy times, telling us how we should be doing things better and leaving money on the table and other fantastic vendor euphemisms. Because us dealers,
hey, Kevin, it only takes one car deal to cover the expense. I mean, come on.
I know. Oh God, don't even get me going on that one. But vendors are our partners too. They just need to give us a little more credit.
I hear you.
And our business a little more. But that being said, this is the part where I get in trouble with your mom. My dad had an expression which is called broom in the ass. And when I used to call my dad, and he used to say,
I like that one.
I used to call him when I moved out of, because I wasn't a millennial, so I moved out of my home at 20, right? So I used
hey, I'm a millennial.
How's your Saturday going? And he used to say, well, your mom's got a broom up my ass. And I'm like, I'm not sure how comfortable I am with that. But here's what it meant. What it meant is I'm unloading the dishwasher with my left hand. I'm stirring the soup with my right hand. I'm pushing the lawnmower with my left leg. And she says, if you're not doing anything constructive, do you mind sweeping the floor? And I only had one spot left. And that, as crude as it is, describes what's happening with my staff. And I went down from 42 to 17 core people. And the 17 core people I had were hustlers. They were open-minded. They understood it. They were scared, but they showed up and they did a tremendous job. Each one of them had a broom in the rear because they were, my GSM was running to pick up the mail. I was doing the bank deposits. Yeah. I was doing the coffee run in the morning. My parts delivery guy was driving the shuttle with people, 3 seats in the back. Everyone is doing things that they're not accustomed to doing. So the new normal became whatever it takes. Yeah. That's not going to change when my staff comes back. It's still going to be whatever it takes. And to be honest with you, what I've always said is there are times I've worked with good people with great intentions, and we've parted ways, and I've thought to myself, you know what, I hire attitude and develop aptitude, and they just didn't make the cut, and they may be great across the street working for another manufacturer, for an independent, but that's not the high-powered team I'm looking to put together here. And there's going to be some of that when we get back to normal with some of my staff, just because they've seen we can do it, and what we've been able to do with half the staff has been remarkable. And that includes me. That was a wake-up call for me too, and I'm not going to come off of that, man. And I'll tell you some of the processes, and I know we'll probably get into this as the podcast goes on, but some of the things that we need to change as it relates to customer process and how we approach customers and transact business in here now will require understanding from OEMs. It'll require understanding from our provincial governing bodies. I'll get it out, man. I was not happy with how OMVIC, which is the governing body in the province that I operate
totally
in,
with you on that.
Was supportive of dealers here. And thank God we had a couple of other vendors, partners who did not have concerns with fear of retribution, who stepped up with our support and stated it. But they're going to have to understand that customers are dictating, and we're supporting the fact they want to do remote business in their condo parking lots, in their driveways and stuff. And that needs to be okay, man. It needs to be okay. It's got to be okay with my staff. It's got to be great with me. And that's what we need to continue to do.
No, I mean, the customer really is in the driver's seat. And yeah, not saying that that's a new thing. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I've visited thousands of dealerships, since I've been in the business. And I always see, patterns with the dealerships that are really crushing it. I mean, really, from a profitability perspective, from an operations perspective, from a culture perspective. And the one thing I always found real consistent is really putting the customer at the center of everything that they did. So, if the customer wants to do it this way, all right, we'll do it that way. If the customer wants me to come pick up their car for service, all right, well, come pick it up there for service. If, the customer wants me to come to their house and sign a document, I'll do that and move over. I want to take one little kind of segue in our discussion, because I want to get your guys' thoughts on this, because I've been reading too many articles out there right now about how people are saying this is the end of our industry and sales are going just to plummet, and everything is going to get real bad before it gets any better. And coming from someone who manages and develops content in a little over 100 dealership websites, I'm looking at these analytics and going, I don't know what the hell everyone's talking about. Like, traffic's up. I mean, I have dealerships that, April of this year and April of last year, their online engagement and traffic is up 15, 20, 25%. March looked like the exact same thing. Going into May, I actually saw an increase. So you guys will get a kick out of this one. When the government announced that we can schedule appointments for showrooms, I literally saw a spike in the 4 or 5 days, almost consistently across the board, of online traffic. Now, I think what it is that these are online shoppers. Now, these shoppers may not be taking action right this second, but they're online and they're ready. So I think we're going to have that coming out of that. Plus, we're going to have, another new segment of buyers that we never had in the past. And that's for us here in Ontario, the 1.5 million people that rely on public transit. Like, I don't know of a whole lot of people that are going to be jumping back on a train and getting in a bus anytime soon. And they're going to be looking for, pre-owned, inexpensive or low lease new vehicles. And I just kind of got to get your guys' thoughts on, what the sales kind of look like, or how you guys see, the new audiences are coming on, or new people are going to be buying into, the market where they weren't there before. Stefano, I'll start with you, and then Kevin, I'll ask you the same question.
Yeah, the public transit example is a perfect one, and we've actually experienced it firsthand already. So we're getting calls, saying, oh, and of course everyone has a ton of time right now, and we're here to listen about everything. And so you're kind of learning about customers at a different level now. They're saying, we've had examples of, I used to take the TTC, or I used to take the GO train to work. We're in Aurora, so we're a bedroom community. So a lot of commuters and GO train stations, throughout. And they're basically saying, we don't want to take the GO train anymore. We're going to come in and look at a car, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm glad you brought up that example, because I am experiencing that firsthand. But same thing with you. I was talking to my website providers, and they said, Steph, you're up. And I said, okay, everybody's home, everybody's on the apps, and maybe they're looking at cars a little, more aggressively than they normally would, whether they're interested or not interested, serious buyer, not serious buyer. But regardless, the numbers are up, VDPs are up. And I don't think that we are going anywhere. We are the car industry. We are needed. We are strongly needed by everybody around. And I don't see that at all. Not even in the slightest. I think that the car industry will go down, or the numbers will go down, or whatever the case is. I think they're going to go up. As the example of the public transit is one of many that can be discussed. We're going up. We're here to change, right? And Kevin and I'll be the first to tell you that we're here to change. And as we've already discussed that, we're not going anywhere. We're here. We're here.
I'm with you guys. Like, we are here. I mean, Kevin, what would you say to, these people writing these articles that are forecasting between 25 to 40% decrease in sales is where we're heading? I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think they're wrong, and I'm not saying it as a cockeyed optimist who's in this business, because I'm used to, I just sit in my bedroom every Sunday and listen to Tony Robbins and Jason Harris and Gary Vaynerchuk, who convince me that everything's going to be fine.
Wow, I'm in that group. Now I'm trying to decide if the cool part is you compare me into that group, or you're listening to me while you're in bed. I'm trying to decide which one's cooler.
The secret's out. Get your webcams out of my room, brother. But I really, here's how I look at it. I remember it. I'll express myself in parable. as they do in many other parts of the world. And I remember once having a conversation after I'd owned the business for a year, and I held a town hall with my staff, and one of my mechanics put his hand up and said, I know I'm only a grease monkey, but blah, 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 so forth, and brought up a very good point. And I says, well, first of all, I'm not familiar with that term. Me having the same problem growing up with a motorsports problem like Stefano is so wonderfully developing now. It's a great hobby, by the way. It creates millionaires.
Yes, that's right.
Keep going, brother.
Thank you, man.
Anyway, and I explained to him, this isn't a grease monkey thing, and you've lost sight of what it is that you do. So what you do is you're not just simply rotating tires and doing an oil change on a Ford Explorer. The person who's come in here is asked you to check the vehicle over. It's February, and that woman and her husband have saved up for the last 6 years to go on a trip to Disney World that they're taking with their family in this car. If you don't do your job right and they break down in Kentucky in the mountains somewhere and they have to go into a hotel for a night or two, that blows the budget on maybe 2 days in Disney World and what they're doing. What you're doing is you are providing liberty and the ability for people to get out and enjoy themselves, and that's what you're doing. And going back to your initial question now that I come out of the parable, that hasn't changed. Car culture and those types of things haven't changed. People have been cooped up in their houses. They're going to want to get out. I don't know, the last time you flew Air Canada Rouge wasn't a pleasant experience for me. I'm not a small guy, but shoulder to shoulder, person falling asleep on your shoulder, drooling, those days are done. I think air transportation is going to become expensive, and people are going to get out and they're going to explore Canada this summer. Yep. And I think public transit, the same thing here. Locally here, 3 years ago, they came up with the notion of spending $3 billion on a light rail transit system, which has been running empty after its 2 years of delay since we've come here. Still a necessary thing. It needs to get people around, but the ability to get out, explore, and see things as part of car culture is alive and well. That's not going to change. And I think more people are going to want to do it than ever before. And we're here to help them. We need to be better. We need to change. We're heading down that journey now, and we need to get better exponentially quicker. And we will, and it'll be better now. We need car dealers. There's not many Google or Amazon names on the back of Little League jerseys.
No, there isn't.
Exactly. Right.
But you're so right, man. Like our industry is a necessary industry, and we do provide freedom to to get to work and get to home and to go out and to explore. And I'm with you, and I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity. Like I said, there's public transit, there's the people that have already been in market and now are going to still continue to be in market. That hasn't gone away. There's we didn't even talk about all the people ride sharing. Ontario has the highest usage of ride-sharing programs than any other province in Canada. I mean, are you going to jump into the back of a stranger's car, in the next couple months? I don't think so. So I'm with you. A lot of things will change. I want to take kind of just a slight shift kind of in the direction of our conversation, because I want to get you guys' thoughts on this, because it's been something I've been thinking a lot about lately, and I'm getting kind of mixed responses as far as what dealerships are actually doing, or in some cases not actually doing. But best practices on how to talk and motivate your team through this time frame. So here's what I've been experiencing. I have two different types of dealerships I've experienced. They kind of fall into two different categories. One category of dealerships are sticking their head in the sand and their fingers in their ears and going la 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 la, and not communicating to anybody or doing anything along that lines. And then on the polar opposite of the extreme, I have, dealer principals that are doing an amazing job of jumping on daily Zoom conversations and calling staff and checking in with them. And I think there's a fair amount of dealerships right now that are listening, watching right now, and they're wondering, like, how do I continue to motivate my team during this time frame? I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Stefano, I'll start with you, and then Kevin, I'll ask you the same question.
Yeah, so we've been doing much of that as well. So we're doing a lot more calls. I'm here. I'm on the floors every day. Start to finish, morning to night, whatever it takes. So I'm here. My father, we jump on a lot of calls, a lot of conference calls, keep the communication lines flowing. And you know what? It starts from the top. It starts from us. So however we are going to be adapting to the changing times and showing our staff, our willingness to adapt. The ones that want to come along, like Kevin said, the hustlers, the ones who, whatever it takes, we're here for you. Those are the ones that are really, really, really going to adapt and excel in this time. It's not to say that the other who aren't hustlers aren't going to adapt. It's just, you kind of see the ones that really are understanding that this is what it is. And so if we don't change, what are we going to do? Right. We can't sit there and think what's going to happen. I think it's best to live one day at a time. You never know, there was it a week, 2 weeks ago? I've no sense of time these days, but we're waiting for Doug Ford to get on there and tell us what's going to happen in our province. It's day by day. We never know what's going to happen. When the showrooms got announced to be by appointment only, it's like, the salespeople are, getting excited. The managers are getting excited. So it's great to see that. But again, I think it all comes from the top. And it's important to let your staff know that you're here to support them in any way, shape, or form. It's difficult times. I know we've experienced a couple of staff members who have lost their parents to COVID. So it is tough, and you got to be there for them. And one of my guys said, he hasn't seen his father in 2 or 3 months. And he said, I said, do you want to go spend time with like your sisters and your brother? He goes, no, I want to be here. This is where I feel comfortable. And that to me was, it's nice to see that he wants to be around the staff, and he takes liking to what we're doing here. Right. Obviously everybody's safe, so it's all good. But from the top down, you got to be positive. You got to show that energy that's needed in the showrooms.
You're 100% right. I mean, I think during times like this is when we actually see who are real leaders versus, just the pretenders. And, and I think that's what we're seeing out there right now. I mean, I've seen some dealerships that really, really stepped up to the plate and shown leadership, not only to their staff, but to their customers and to their community. Kevin, your thoughts on just how do we kind of keep our team, motivated through this time frame?
Great question. And as you said, there's quite a spectrum in how you approach it. I'm here to tell you I haven't done as good a job as I have intended to. That's not by design. I just, I think I mentioned to you in past dialogues with you, Jason, that in these times, and Stefano, I'm sure you can feel this, man. You are either worked to the bone or bored out of your mind. One or the other. And you can see you can see so many spots, and it's no different in our business. And many times when I get home, my wife will ask me, what the hell are you even doing? Half your staff is there. You keep saying who are you meeting with? You can't meet. What's going on? But there is a lot going on. And I've talked to a lot of dealers who have weekly placed calls individually to all their employees who are on furlough, or in some cases, let's say being paid, but aren't physically at the dealership. And that's the one spot where I think I haven't done as great a job. I've done it weekly, but I should be doing it more than that. I've got a half-written note, which I will get out today, that talks about how the fact that this CERB has to be applied for the CERB once a month, and it's that time, so make sure you go ahead and apply for it. I've done videos of just walk through the place saying, this is kind of what I felt like I was in the movie Chernobyl. This is kind of what it's like in here now. People and noise in the showroom, and I hear, Lady Gaga playing in the show. I've never heard music in the showroom before. Apparently, we've had it for 10 years. So it's kind of a fun thing to try and keep them up. But I have found that at times that my staff at home have been more work than my staff here. So try to keep them motivated, try and keep them engaged, try to tell them that we still love them and that we want to get them back here as soon as it's safe to do so, as soon as the government opens up. But I think that keeping them engaged, in touch with it from an arm's length, using video or the media that we have, we're blessed, man. If this was 50 years ago, the feeling of distance would be much, much more significant.
Very, very true.
Now. And with the staff that I have here, I huddle with them every day, twice a day, 10 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. What's good? What's bad? How can I help? What do we need to do differently tomorrow? And as long as you continue to do that, sometimes it's 4 minutes. Sometimes you talk about how customers need to interact. And sometimes you talk about how much they miss their mom. Whatever the heck it is, that's what you do. But I'll tell you, it certainly flushes out for the people who are in a position of people management. There's administrators, there's managers, and then there's leaders. And it became very apparent very quickly who was where. That's for sure. And
I totally agree. And that's, I guess, one silver lining, kind of during times like this. And I remember the same thing happened during the recession. The same thing happened. You saw who were real leaders and who weren't. And speaking of leadership, that's actually a perfect segue into my next question, because another big part of my conversation with a lot of dealers right now is communication from their OEMs. Wow, boy, that's been a hot topic. And again, I swear OEMs kind of fall into one of those two categories again, right? Like there are OEMs out there that are like, la, 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 la. And then there are ones that are really doing an amazing job of actively communicating to their dealership body and supporting the dealership body in every single way they can. I'm kind of curious for you two gentlemen, how has it been, and what has been your experience, I guess, really, with dealing with OEMs during this time frame? Stefano, I'll start with you.
You know what? I've been blessed with the OEMs that we deal with. Super supportive in every way, shape, and form. Even when it comes to wholesale inventory, that cars that are geared up for your dealerships and product that's geared up for your dealerships. Making the call, saying, "Is it okay if we send those units?" and things like that, and let us know how we can help you. If we make a call, just give us a call, see if we can help you out on anything. So I've been blessed. FCA, Yamaha, Suzuki. I have nothing but great, fantastic things to say about how they've been with us throughout this difficult time, very uncertain time, even for them, right? You do have to feel for the OEM as well.
That is
right?
very true. Yep.
Everybody has a boss, right? So it's you have to understand that their boss is looking at them saying, "Hey, how many units can you get out of that dealer, this week to wholesale, right?" So you have to understand everybody has a boss, and everybody is dealing with a very uncertain time, especially in the beginning times. Now you've kind of entered a little bit of a flow in your life now, when it comes to dealership, of course, but you got to really understand and take everything with a grain of salt and what's going on. But on my end, super happy, super impressed with how everything went down.
That's great to hear. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin, for yourself, how's your experience been with, kind of the communication, coming from the OEMs, and do you feel supported?
Good question. Is this where I get my anonymous mask from the movie The
Yeah, this is where I'm just going to fuzz out your face and we'll do that, that deep, dark, voice.
Yes. Go in the shadows where my voice changed. Actually, it's not necessary. As much as it sounds like I may be blowing sunshine, I'm not. Ford has been fantastic. And they have taken a shit kicking from their boss, which is Wall Street and shareholders, saying that they, unduly in a lot of cases, which is a whole other topic of conversation. But in face of that, in the face of their announced $2 million loss this quarter, they are expecting a $5 billion with a B dollar loss upcoming. They have been accessible. They've been responsive. I chair our National Dealer Council, so I've had a front row seat to what it looks like in all this madness. And you heard me talk about administrator, manager, leader, and I've got a great leader. The first, CEO, Canadian CEO, come back to Ford of Canada, and he landed right in the middle of it. He went through a smart redesign where he took a bunch of human resource out of the place, closed some plants, and then this hit. So welcome back to Canada, Dean. But I'll give you, I'll tell you,
Dean, that's just a plug-in. You'll have to come onto the show now because we've called you out.
So they've been great, and to the point of where I've said, you're not going to go back to your building and have meetings all day staring into each other's neighbors, because you guys are at home in your underwear. You're doing way better. You've been way more accessible. You've turned around stuff quicker. We've brought 52 things to them saying in terms of support that we need, financial and otherwise. They've come through with 48 and made great attempts, and just halfway in the other ones. It's like, feel very supported, very blessed. Nobody I'd rather go through this for. I mean, now I feel a very undying loyalty as a result of it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That is so cool, and it's great to hear, and we hope to have you on the show, Dean. So moving to my next, this is kind of one of my last questions, guys, for you guys is I've been talking a lot about goals. You know, I mean, man, do we literally have to take everything that we kind of had at the beginning of the year and kind of wrap it up into a ball and just kind of toss it into the trash and start with a fresh piece of paper? I mean, and I find that is something that a lot of dealerships and a lot of management is struggling with right now is like, how do I do this? And I think even the OEMs are struggling too to figure out, like, what do I set for goals? I mean, so much of our pay plans is based on hitting these goals. And I think everybody's asking that question, like, how do I reset? What do I reset? So I'd love to kind of get your guys' thoughts on this is, you know, how do we kind of develop out realistic goals moving into this new norm? Stefano, I'll start with you, then Kevin, I'll ask you the same question.
I think it's going to take another 30 to 60 days, maybe more, to kind of establish and answer that question 100% accurately. Because I think as owners, we are still kind of trying to figure out where our goals need to be, and we still need a little bit of time to develop a pattern and kind of see where we're at. Yeah, that might be a little bit tough to answer at the exact moment, but you know, for me, my goal is to ensure my staff are safe, my clients are safe, daily operations are safe, of course, and just to kind of make sure that we stay on track for where we need to be as a company, and you know, devote ourselves to the company and the industry to make sure that what we're doing are the necessary steps to encourage to become, you know, to have those goals. Whether it's, you know, certain pricing or certain logistic styles or whatever the case may be. I think we still need a little more time to answer that question accurately, just my opinion. But
no, that totally makes sense. I mean, you know, I see right now for a lot of dealerships, the goal is process. Let me just create the goal of developing out this process and just start executing so I can figure out how to fix it or where it breaks and so on and so forth. You know, I think it's probably not fair that we're talking about what our goals as far as numbers are, because we don't really even know. Mm-hmm. And, you know, from a process perspective, you know, we don't necessarily know what that's going to be. From a cost perspective, we don't even know what that's going to be. I mean, Kevin, me and you got talking about this a little bit off camera earlier. You know, the expense of everything is going up. You know, the thing about the expense of service a car, we now have to sanitize cars. Like, guys, it costs something. Like, there's a cost associated with that, right? I'm thinking of all the inventory sitting on the lot and just kind of rotting away, you know? I mean, Kevin, you talked about that earlier. It's like, how many of those used cars are you going to have to replace the brakes because it's been sitting there for 2 months and, you know, hasn't moved. So, I mean, Kevin, your kind of thoughts on, you know, the dealerships out there that are, you know, needing to create goals, because it is important. We have to have goals, right? If we're going to move direction, we have to have goals. But, you know, what is a realistic goal that we can set right now during this time frame?
Geez, you know, this is a great question. You've done this before, haven't you? This is not your first podcast.
I've done a couple.
Okay. All right.
267.
Question, like Stefano, it's pretty difficult to answer. I don't have hard goals, and I'll tell you why. There's a number of things that need to occur beyond our control before we can really establish what it looks like. The goal is, let's do the best we can, manage process now, take that pronoun and flip it over to profit, hopefully at some point soon, because that'd be nice. Because I had a job, man. I didn't need to do this as a job, that's for sure. So I think, you know, get the process in place, and also the process for safety. And as you onboard more staff now, I've got 30,000 square feet with 20 people in it. Pretty soon it's going to be 42 people or up to 42 people in the same space. I need to keep them apart, even in terms of, you know, using restrooms and how people are going to enter the showroom. I've got 2 entrances, and how we manage that, and whether masks are going to be mandatory. And so the safety element's going to be a big one before we can establish what that looks like. Second thing for me is going to be the return of consumer confidence. So the government of Canada and the provinces have to come out and say, you know, we're back to a new normal. People find out, my job's still there, my company's still there, it's at the same level. I'm comfortable again, even though we have manufacturers such as mine, which is offering like almost a 6-month payment vacation, a 3-year free plus 3-year deferral. I don't know where I'm going to be in 6 months. So I'm still not comfortable going down the road. So until consumer confidence returns, it's going to be hard to say what goals we can set as to whether it'll be the new normal. And I hate the cliche new normal already, and we're not even in the freaking new normal yet. So and
That's true.
The final thing is going to be supply, both part supply and supply from the manufacturer. How quickly can Ford Motor Company go from producing face shields back to producing again? Because if you take a look at their assembly processes, they can't be they have to be at least 6 feet apart on the assembly line, and that's going to take significant changes to their operation. Now, Ford's starting off in the U.S. This coming Monday, and I don't know what their throughput's going to look like, and until I do, I can't lay those expectations on my staff. So to what Stefano has said, do the best we can as soon as we can, but a lot still well beyond our control, brother.
Yep, absolutely.
No, and I think you're 100% right. I mean, I think right now, as far as the goals go, we should go for those quick wins. I don't understand why dealerships are trying to rework their, annual numbers when it's like we have no bloody clue. Like the goal should be let's go for a quick win and easy. The goal should be, how am I going to get my dealership to feel safe? How am I going to get people to feel safe to come back to work? How am I going to, how do I get the customer to feel safe? If they have to service a vehicle or they have to purchase a vehicle from me. So no, I'm with you. I think that's a great place, because we need goals because it pushes it forward, but these goals maybe just need to be different than what we're used to. They need to be kind of those quick wins and more of a operational goal, maybe necessarily than a profit goal. Yeah. Hey guys, I know we're at the end of our time today, so thank you so much for taking the time to jam with me today. But before we go, I get to ask my favorite question of the day, and I prepped you guys for this, so I expect big things. I'm just kidding. All right, I'm going to start with you, Stefano. All right, here we go, Stefano. What is pissing Stefano off?
There's a few things that are pissing me off, but I think the main thing that's really pissing me off is that I can't stare out my showroom window and see a client's face and the smile when they come back from a test drive on a 911 or an SRT, and I can't look at them and say they love it. I can't really do that, right? And though we just had the showrooms open now, maybe that'll start to trickle in a little bit. But that's what's pissing me off.
Yeah, I would say
I enjoy that. I enjoy that very much. Yeah, I enjoy that.
That's a good one. Thanks, Stefano. All right, Kevin, you're up. All right.
Oh,
you do some epic rants, so the pressure's on here. I'm just messing with you. All right, Kevin, ready? Get up on that soapbox. What is pissing Kevin Zimic off?
I'm going to agree with Stefano and say it has to do with contact. Whether I'm a hugger. So I don't know what the hell that looks like going forward. That's for sure. And I'll even say contact as it relates to this. So I have an old school iPhone. When I put my thumb on here because of this,
it doesn't work.
My thumbprint doesn't work anymore. Now I got to remember passwords. And I got too many other things on my mind. So I know my password now, but I forgot to put on underwear today, and I can't seem to get it all together. So anyway, I miss human contact. I miss being able to see people, eye to eye, and that's not going to come back for a while, man. That'll take a little getting used to for me. So
that's be the longest wait.
That's
for sure.
Probably one of the best. Yeah. Why I'm pissed off moments we've had so far on this podcast. Thank you, Kevin, because of my old crappy phone. Hey guys, but before we go, for everybody that's watching and listening, thank you for watching and listening. If anybody out there would love to connect with you two gentlemen and kind of follow along with your business and yourself and what you guys do, what is the best way to do so? Stefano, I'll start with you. What's the best way to connect with you?
The best way to connect with me is, email. Stefano@serpa.ca, and the main website for the company is serpa.ca. That website is our landing page for our entire group of companies. So anything you guys need, we're here to answer.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, Kevin, for yourself, for the people out there watching, listening, would love to connect with you. What's the best way to do so?
A couple of different ways. Email. My last name is Zimic, so it's KZIMIC@ridgehillford.com. That always works. I have also at ZIMIC on Twitter. You can see me get into all kinds of trouble there. And my Instagram is at LUV4RE, which is not an ode to my wife or my mom. It's short for Love Ferrari, because I have a car problem that may include things other than Ford. So that's
We
where
should-
you find me on Instagram. I have not waded into the cesspool of TikTok. So
Okay, well, there we go. We're going to get Kevin into TikTok. and I'm sure his car obsession will fall well into TikTok.
I'm with you on that, man. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. Hey, guys, thanks again so much for taking the time to jam with me today. This has been a ton of fun.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
it.
You guys have a good one.
You too.